다 나타리 버지니아 롭달라 용네 갑다시 제더니 타 니바이 나바탄 슈포 양케르 덴디 코르쿠션 와라 데네 베 카프루침보 쇼소 데네 가츠 또 소소 무이르 당에 테랑 샤파데 가츠 보거드니 곰바가 나라 요피 데네 소소 무이 스트로징 거드니 소소 무이르 티톨라 갑다카시 셰게 데나 가츠 gomba gatini stroging gatini loso gatini muir tela shirtang chesani shana te muir ni do samgdo tini tangbo te tini ta ngacho soso rang yarje ta ya tini ga tong la rendu tena rang yarje ta ga ji ta ngacho nangchu nani shana shu ni ni sha kyo rang yarje ta wa ze te chigdi ka re jena soso rang ga shirp yarje ta ya te re ngacho nangchu gu zena mugdang nawa nayang chamma menzini da ngarang cho mugre naware nare teni lidang ye kyangzi changma teni jiktin de ngacho mug kan thong thap ko mare je jiktin de ngacho teni wangbo cho yakbo za ha ko thap ko mare tena jiktin de yang tak ba chi go na teni ngacho muna na chi lin de pi teni sherb z gore te yo gore te yo na teni ngacho jiktin de yakbo z teni ha gore so so mche te yakbo za ha gore te indi te yakbozi yongya ga chet tini soso ga sherb yarge tang go reze gre te nga chong mugir chigre.
So to begin with, I'd like to say that this is my second time here at the University of Virginia. It's my second time to meet with you all, and I'm very happy to have this chance. Today we are talking about the purposes of education, and chiefly I'm talking about the purposes of education from the point of view of the traditional monastery in Tibet. In a general sense, we could say that the purposes of the traditional monastic education are twofold. First, one's personal development or self-improvement. And there are two aspects to this. The first being the improvement or increasing of one's own wisdom. And in this respect, we are talking about a kind of wisdom that transcends that which our senses are able to discern about the world. So in terms of what our eyes can perceive, our ears can perceive, our nose can perceive, our senses, etc., ultimately it's felt that what they're able to understand and know about the world is limited, and therefore what is needed is a wisdom that transcends these kinds of knowledge. And so the first respect in which we talk about personal improvement or development is the cultivation of wisdom.
Tani nipado tani sherp to yarje tani tangwa sibu yung yo mare tani sherp sibu yarje tani tani ngaso nyangji mena sherp te tani peshu shinchlo pa ta tang ro yan ro tani yin kan du te indi tani nyangji te yarje tang go reze te indi tani ngaso yarje tang ya te la changshok ne sha na tani sherp yarje tang ya tani nyangji yarje tang 대니리 대당 냠드 드니 소소랑 그 샘거 나라 요비 드니 삼로 신실로바 드니 저 마시바다 마스톡바다 당가서 낭추고제는 뇽몽바스 데 뇽몽바테 소마 메바치야 뇽몽바테 가테 가서 메바 약보시 마트나 드니 양 소소 야지 드니 던도토고 마레 소소랑 야지 로모트 대당 냠드 뇽몽바테 마 메바 당스 단도 서드나 녀지 당 셰르브니까 야지 동와당 드니 뇽몽바 메바시야 대가 저 드니 곰바가 롭소 무여 당보데르.
So in addition to cultivating or increasing our wisdom, the second important aspect of personal cultivation or development is compassion. That is, without compassion, it's possible that with just wisdom alone, this wisdom can be put to incorrect or destructive purposes. So compassion, its cultivation, is also very important. So it's possible to say in terms of the things we seek to increase or improve, these are twofold, wisdom and compassion, and at the same time, the purpose of education that concentrates on self-development also emphasizes the need to eliminate those aspects of ourself that, for example, our patches, the things that our ignorance, the things that we don't know, what we refer to in Buddhist terminology as afflictive mental states. These are something that we need to work on eliminating. So in terms of this first goal of traditional Tibetan monastic education, we could say that there are two things we seek to increase: wisdom and compassion, and the one thing that we seek to eliminate, and that is afflictive mental states.
Tene mugir nipati tini jala pamba dripati jala pamba dripasi ati penanga so chechok nane pe na tendru tawo tindi na chechok chama jamnim gugo ne tene chongchup yabo tini ta shiji te chigre tene ni te tene nga so chechok to la yo pi mususo la simkham go tene dechit yabo zo tene chenje da tene sum do tene da nga so yang di simkham go dechit tene yar tene ta chen de dang nyam de tene ta shusok to la yang mu chogo te gungshut ko chagji de tene jeche la tongje jimtola tongje ta jampang kana la tindi sim da pozre ta ndor dana tinika tene nga so gomba ga lobso te muir ze gona phamba ze gona drew ze gona khafta sada otije.
So if that is the first purpose of traditional Tibetan monastic education, personal development or personal improvement, the second purpose would be that of benefiting others. And this we can talk about from three perspectives. The first of benefiting all beings, including animals, with a view that sees all beings as equal and one that therefore seeks to protect other beings. This is the first aspect of benefiting others. The second is one where happiness in society is sought to be promoted, so benefiting others through promoting happiness. And then in the third perspective, which follows on from this, would be promoting the ethical behavior of members of society. So these are three aspects of the overall purpose of benefiting others, which is the second purpose of Tibetan monastic education. So we can talk about these as the purposes of Tibetan traditional education, or the benefits of this education, or even the results of this education.
Okay, thank you so much. I have one follow-up, and that's a question for you about American universities. And your first point about personal growth was about wisdom. And you said that wisdom could be separate from compassion, and sometimes it can be dangerous if it's separate from compassion. That made me think about our technological advancement at the university. So my question is, where do you see wisdom at the modern American university, and do you see any challenges with our technological advancement, which is maybe a form of wisdom?
Tero ngarang nanang talu lo ni dinala tene zamalang ka cherche on so to so lobta mambo nala joji tene korkap tene yabo shonson tene girgan yena loma yena samala te khabda ji korko yabo shonson ngare gari zego yozena pena shirap ta tene nyarji ni ka khakhan ra botin je sona pena da nga so lobta chimo so nala teni shiyun mambo teni yarjetang ga yore teni zambalang ga shivsha mambo shiga yore tenra boz ka laksar ka tone pe haliba ga chat teni thombo teni je kandu ta yina ta te dang nyam te yin charti ta khoso yina ta maung ba zambalang de teni ta khashok kanglan joda manjo ta pe na nga chu teni lobta chimbon du so na la yupi te lomat sola teni jagle yore teni yendi teni lomatso teni ta kanda ka ta nalan jota manjo to teni lota chimbondi lopsu la teni ta jagle yore teni lopta chimbondi lopsu to ta korang so teni loptsin de kanji jig ma jig te ti thola teni jagle ndu teni yendi nge sam lo ta nan di na la nyarji da bo teni go teni te gosa re ma to ba te mena pe na nga so char ka lakchar ka teni nga so teni ta lakchar ka top ko teni chchan da manda ta teni ji chonchan da manda teni zothap ko yore te gang thola pesho tangna njug gang thola pesho tangna munjug nam pesho tangna chok nam pesho tangna ma chok te char ka zethap ko yamare lakchar ka zethap ko yamare te lamtum shinking ka teni ta samlo jamba ji go yore Tendi yendi teni nyarji de titawla jangna ma to ba te ma jangna nge pes samlo dana nyenka chimbo da wolam thong du ngarang ger kunguni samlo dana.
Over the last couple of years, I've had a chance to visit a lot of different universities in both the East and West, and I've also had the opportunity to meet with and engage in dialogue with a lot of different teachers and students. In my view, their wisdom and compassion, they belong together, and there is a danger if they, in fact, don't go together in an educational system. So, in general, we can say that in a university system, in a situation like here in America, students advance, they improve in their level of education, they know a great deal of information about the world, they possess a lot of technical skills and so on. In terms of the future of the world, this in fact rests on the shoulders, or in fact depends on today's university students. And if it depends on today's university students and universities, then you could say this then depends on the education they're receiving. And then this education, in fact, rests or depends on the actual lessons that they're taking place. And I feel that in terms of what they're actually learning, that compassion is essential. It's possible through our skills and our knowledge of technology to create a great deal of machines and weapons, etc. However, in terms of when and how and in respect of which goals these machines are deployed, this is not something that the technology and the machines themselves have the capacity to determine. We need someone external to the machines to determine these purposes. And in my view, compassion is essential here. Without it, we face potential great dangers and risks.
Tani America lota chimu nam ko nala da shirp de kana de nyarji de kana de zena shirp la samlo tana ta hali par re te nga pena tari khatsang re tan terang re tani nimasam go rang la tani nga pena Virginia lota na ne gigan samala da thap kumar da ngarang la ngarang ga sinan do pi tani rera yong kan ga tani gigan mangbola tani thso tin nanang ina ya te da pos ga gigan Mamboyo 특성 균 domna parchi teni juanga nishi teni yujire teni yena khorang so jimjik shil ta te so pe ngone halepa ga teni yakpo teni to shekundu te halepa ra pore teni yendi sherap ta nga so ngone ji ganga thola yena teni ji to halepa ra rewan ra thongdu ape halepa yakpo re samado teni nyarje thola ngone tane shana nga so ji ta pe na nga lo nga nyarji nga chum teni lop chi ga yore maung bala Nindi Rezianda, Tindi Thomasung, they were Virginia Chipomari, Aranga, Lota Mambola, Zambola Gesharje, Nevre Mambola, Lepson, Mambo, Girgensola, Titola, Kabdashi, and our Sherbta, Yanjida Unitan, Mambana, Yonsari Samada, they Thomasung, Arangan Thomasung, Yanjina, Titola Aranchi, they don't some good depending also. Sherbti Halipatin in Tombo Chak, the Yanji, the Nebanda, the Chan in the Nida was in the Sambado, around Sorat in Digi. 용건들 지시나테 노라 인지리 강타는 아는 거 삼설된지스레
So in terms of wisdom and compassion in the university situation, well, over the past 3 days I've been here at UVA and I've met with a number of teachers. I was also able to do so last year as well. Perhaps last year and this year combined, I've met with a total of 15 or 20 teachers. By all means, not everyone, but a group of teachers that I was hoping to meet, I was able to meet with. In terms of the research methods that are employed here, it's really astounding. It's clearly very wonderful. So in terms of wisdom, we can say that there is great hope, that things are in a very positive situation. However, in terms of compassion, over the course of my discussions with people, I haven't really had a strong sense that there are any great prospects for compassion, or that compassion is something that's going to be really manifested really well in the future. So my sense is, in a way, that wisdom is up here and compassion is a bit down here. The two seem out of balance or out of proportion with each other. And this may be a misperception on my part, but it's my impression nevertheless.
I think we can turn it over to David to get into some details.
Yeah, so those are kind of broad statements both from Curtis and from Kempo about the why. And if we're really, I think many of us might agree on the general goals, even if there's a difference in terms of what the priorities are. But I think the real question comes not so much on what people would say when you ask them, what's the goal of a university, what's the goal of a monastic education, but I think what's really of interest is more the what. What actually is the way that these institutions of higher learning are organized, and what do they actually do within those units? And so the modern research university is divided up usually into schools or colleges. And so we have typically a college of arts and sciences, maybe a business school, maybe a medical school, maybe an educational school, and so forth. And so what I wanted to ask Kempo, first of all, is just what are the major units or divisions of a modern Buddhist monastery that are devoted to learning, that are examples of what the monastic higher education process units are?
맞아 곰바 옛날 시당 곰바라 곰바 침보 곰바 총총 든지 멍보래 든지 양 곰바 총총 또 소나라 양다저 로종 곰마라 차창보 든지 요 말에 다 빼나지 곰바 약보 든지 지다 살든 든지 로종 곰마라 차창 요바 든지 그 곰바지 있나 가서 시당라 곰바나라 든지 작슴세 작슴 지대 장자지야데 다 곰바가 빼나 참참야 자다 곰바가 로모동야 자다 근데 곰바가 동반동야 자다 곰바가 초반초야 다서 상마데 곰바가 르니즈레 대양 곰발라 삼로타나 베까지 침보스레 대라 대 마님바다 대 야보즈 용야가 쳇드니 곰바초고 로레라 딱바딱바드니 로종체그레 이나 대 남긴 문두다 로치크나라 다와니라보 다와싱라보 드니셰그레 대스치그레 teni nipati fiatare ta zu di fiatare nga zu gombaz la samlo ta na gomba teni zu tewa ngoma da fiatare teni fiatare na la gomba yakshu zina teni ripni chid chama dina la yo re tamchi de ripni chid ta nga zu boke na ngama torjing ka thola teni ringne tamchi sir domna teni ringne chiwa nga chungwa nga zi teni jig na la teni da ndo teni jibo de teni chama dina la teni 로종셔야 되니 이어스 때때리 되니 대 니바레 되니 선바티 되니 다양 곰바가 양 같이슈시레 곰바가 빼 같이슈치 되니 곰바가 곰자지 그랬다 곰자 가시가시 곰자지 그래 가시가 되니 줍자지 강터 돈 찍바렌도 되니 티 나라 되니 코서 곰잡산다 포레 되니 곰잡네 되니 렘베 되니 테 곰테라양 고름즈도 되니 름지 되니 코서 되니 다 때때지 로 침본다고 so gum jamne teni dusa teni re tendi teni gomba na la dekha teni ta zenta teni sundra po shesani shana teni
So in terms of monasteries in Tibet, clearly there are different monasteries of all sizes. There are large monasteries, there are small monasteries, and at smaller monasteries there probably isn't a complete or comprehensive education system that can be compared to the larger centers. However, for a large monastery with a complete educational system or framework in place, then there would traditionally be 3 academies. We speak of 3 academies. The first being a Jangdra, which is an academy that is geared towards training monks in dance, skills related to dance, ritual, music, and so on. These are all facets of monastic life that are important to the culture of the monastery, and so that they don't go into decline, so that these ritual aspects of life are in fact maintained. Every year, students take part in the Gyangdra training. However, this is not training that takes place all year. It's usually only for 1 or 2 months every year. So this is the first kind of academy or the first type of class. And the second type of class, or the second type of academy, and really the main academy, is the Shedra. So that is the school devoted to the academic study of Buddhism or the study of Buddhist philosophy. Traditionally speaking, or in an ideal case scenario, 10 branches, the 10 branches of traditional science would be offered, the 5 major sciences and the 5 minor sciences. In addition, then the third academy, or the third type of class offered, would be that of the meditation academy, sometimes referred to as the Gomdra, in other cases referred to as a Drupdra, but in either case an academy for the study or for the practice of meditation, and an academy that would offer a graded course in meditation practice, and often one that would be taken by those somewhat older in age. So these three together form the different education academies or divisions within the traditional monastery.
Tani Shatra Dripjani Koranga Gubata countries Shatra Nane, Tene Gato Nangchu, Teni Tawate, so Tene Rupi Jonluk Gone, Rujong Gone, Jihok Gone, Tene Tala Papre, Rupi Jonluk, Tene Dripjate, Tene Rupi Jonluk Gone, Teni Tawate, Yambatani, Tala Papsarna. Teni ta koranga nyamnyung go ne teni te yenda ma ta go re perna te charik pa da chik pa re do charik pa ga na pe na ngukhum ru pa ga teni jimjik shi ne thomar teni ta ripi jong lu tong lan ro o ndri zi yen sa re zi charik pa cho ripi jong lu tong lan ro go do teni ripi jong lu tong lan ro charbi jini teni charik pa ga chorta khang ga nang la teni chorta shi ne o ta ripi jong lu te norm du ta ren du ze an ra o te charik pa la teni ni du ten ra bo shi ne nga cho nang chu ga teni na pena tomba nyenda boyena thomar shata gnane tani tomba nyette tani ripi jonglu ko tone tani tala phab kre tani dripta gnala ndo sati tani tomba nyette ta nyamnyu go gone o ta tomba nye rendu zit khoso tina chorta dripta te nga cho tani de char ke na chorta khanda bore dripta te pe gom japsa ga khamba chong chong chire yore te sama musoso go tani chorta khare te khorang tina la ngarang hama te shata gnala hojong shate te je tamare ozini tini te nyamnyu go gone tala phayan raw tinji te ni te tini gomba na te kar chishunda bote te nyongbo daw.
So in terms of the Shedra, or the academy for the academic study of Buddhism, and then the Drupdra, the meditation academy, the differences between the two, or their two respective purposes, would be primarily the Shedra is for the study through the theoretical or the study of Buddhist doctrine or Buddhist views through rational inquiry. The Drupja, or the Meditation Academy, is a place where students, after they have established the truth of Buddhist doctrines through rational inquiry and investigation, to then gain an experiential understanding of the truths of these doctrines. So we can say that this is rather similar to science. In physics, for example, scientists first generate a theoretical hypothesis about something, and then they carry out an actual experiment to confirm their findings. So you can say that it's the same for the Shedra and for the Drupja. We could talk about this in terms of a doctrine like emptiness. In the Shedra, one would learn about this from a theoretical point of view, and through rational inquiry and investigation establish the truth of it, and then in meditation practice in the Drupja to experientially understand the truth of this doctrine. So we could say that the small huts that form a Drupja or a meditation academy are like small laboratories where practitioners or students reflect on, or rather through their meditational practice, verify the truth of the doctrines that they have theoretically learned about in the Shedra.
Then to follow up on that, basically you outlined 3 types of academies. So one is the training academy, which is where kids or older people, they're basically learning about arts and crafts and ritual activities that then go into the performance of communal rituals. So you're making the mask, or you're doing the painting, or you're learning the dances, or the liturgy that has to be recited. And I think we can find partial analogs to that in the modern university, for example, in the rise of maker spaces, the idea that we want students not just to be learning in theory, but also be making things with their hands in a variety of ways. But when we think about the meditative academy and the academic academy, then I have a few questions. So the first question is that, well, it's not really a question as much as it is a statement, because he already answered this yesterday. So I'll just say, what he told me is, I asked him, so how much overlap is there? Because if you just listen to what he said, you might think, oh, that sounds nice. First you go to the academic school, and then you go to the contemplative school. But in fact, what he told me is there's very little overlap. These are different sets of students. Most students do not go to both. They go to one or the other. And if you're young, you're channeled into the academic school. And if you're older, like means 40 plus, then you're channeled into the contemplative school. And so the question I wanted to ask him is focused on those younger people, like more similar to our age group, not me, but our students at the University of Virginia, undergraduates. So you're 20, 22 years old, Tibetan, you go to the monastery, and they're going to tell you, go to the academic school. And so I'm interested in the academic school, what goes on for those kids that isn't just about studying books and studying theory? Because later, they're not going to go to the meditative school. So I'm interested, how are they, is it like and not like our undergraduates, who are also doing a lot of academic studies, a lot of theoretical studies? And so my question is, in the academic school, to what degree are they doing things other than just studying books? And how does that manifest in their schedule?
Shirdangla nga tso di tomar shatra landro, teni driptra landro, teni shinin zhong ri. Na yang tashi de jasha yayang teni ngipa mari taga yang kashi shatra la mandro ne shatra lobjong mambu ma shini. Teni tab di bun zhong lobjong shini teni korang driptra la nyamlin shinke. Teni ziyori. Teni shatra na landro kan sonda ina teni ta nga tso shatra na la tso de di jambata ta mandawa zegona kantar te nga so chorjing ko thola teni yenna ta zo de korang ga gang lojong shina te lojong shia te lagling ko thone te sem ko thola lagling ko thola yak pon dip pata zo te la sha kan du teni lagling ko thog ya te zo de susorang ga sem ko thola te yakba phamba yongwa ta teni ya mi jang ka teni sem ko thola phamba yongwa teni ko thola tangponi samlo tang ne teni te lojong shilik ta tendis gore shetang te mi chama te yong zena te kabori da ina korang ga chajin da putin ji korang ga rindan da wotin ji ta chama ga te te la di tangbone ji chu shalik thone na shalik lan tam ra mangbo yo pe na nga chu shan na teni chanir patar de shini shapa yang choba mangbo jamni tendis sha ji yo yang ji nyamling ga thola teni shalik yo tendis shi di 대소 고통네 때니 당보네 수소 셈 고통라데 망보스 삼로 당고레 네 삼로 당나데 가서 롭자 때니 로종실릭다 만자와 지데 데레 삼거든 때니 잠바 때니 다주 때낭튼 참마 말에 배나가서 보긴 낭튼 라이나야 초바 잡지데 할리파 망보레 다 차버트 게릭 파이나 초바 잡지데 할리파 망보레 다 롭다시모 나라 초바 잡지데 요다 요리다 이나 나추고 다 곰바 차퍼길 그 곰바 나라이나 쪼바잡기도 데리 장망 보리도 대양 지장다 마다와 지리 삼거든 다 띵디 언인자 원도.
So in general, the idea is that students first go to the Shedra, and then after having completed their academic study there, that they progress on to their meditative training. But of course, this is not the case that this happens 100% of the time. There are situations, of course, where students just complete a relatively simplified or basic academic training and then move directly onto their meditative training. In terms of the Shedra, so in terms of the Shedra, the most important thing is that what is learned by the students is implemented by them to their benefit in their lives. So that is, what they study should be able to be implemented to benefit their own minds as well as implemented by them to benefit others. So this is one particular aspiration of the Shedra system. And of course, it's not to say that everyone accomplishes this. This is a goal. This is an aspiration. The second special aspect of the Shedra education would be debate. And that is, in Buddhism, we have different ways of teaching or different ways of learning the teachings. There's a particular way of teaching when we're teaching the academic study of Buddhism, another way of teaching when we're primarily addressing practice. In any case, not all Buddhist traditions, but particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, and even more so in schools such as the Gelug school, debate is very important. So this prominence of debate in the education system, combined with what was just mentioned, the emphasis on implementing what one studied to benefit one's mind, these are two special aspects of the Shedra education.
Tani gomba shatra te lojong te nyamlin danika te zongjik shiluk te la shatang gomba susola yang te roluk mamboyor pe na choba jam kan na yang choba ga na ne soso te samba yarji la tang lu ta te mambo ziyore ta ti na ne te chaman janja mare chamal sur manda mambo du pe na nga chu larung gar ra po te na te ne nga chu yang di parlo trip pe ne kam na pe na woma sha na chamma sha na tani ngomba sha na te sha pe ne kam na tani loma chogo tani simla tani pan yak bozu tani tokta bada tani loma chogo jima yang kocho loma ze gona yang mi jambala tani ti pan toya ti par kobda yak bo chatya tani zig tola gang tola gang cho jimjik ze gona ra dolang mambo shekre ta kap sanga cho choldo chone te nga chogo tani loso jablu ka kapshok te gandri ren ro wond tani kapshok te nga cho chanyirik ban ra po chipo semtokla pamba me ba tani re sona yang ser jerju jab go gore yang acho teni nyamle chikpo ma to yang rigjung go thola chimbo ro ma thapna yang ser kor ne teni lamka tambu zlan ro ke ti thola teni dolang mampo teni shene teni she gare acho gamra ina shire ni re de nyamling go thola na pe na los chik na la teni ngacho dawas chik na la teni ngacho lopch saman sam jagne teni sangma go teni gom jab करे थे gom jab ने दावा चिकना पे ना ती gom jab का से ना गासो गारलान रोना हर ती गारला मुस्टिक जा मधु संबंध हो तिंडी रे चिक जा हमारे छमा खमला तक दे गो रे तिंडी लमखाला तिनी गेकु दा तो समा तिनी तंखन तिनी तो दुंग दुग रे तिनी चि न्युमकुं को कास तेज शलो ला युं मा तो बाजन मुस्टिक जा शलो ला रंग यो हमारे दावा चिक चार्जती दावा चिक रे यंदा ती नाने ता निमा निशी नजरे रोंग ती नाला gum jabne teni soso zongjik shia teni gore teschi teni ni de yang tin na la teni nimba da teni ta donji chi yedam gumne nimba donji da yang toso party thola nung go yore te lojong go thola teri nge samlo ta na te ngazo lota chimo na la ta teni yotun yo mare te na chi manda chi shu chi sheta ni ka ga lota chimo ga rne mambo jang de ngazo rne mambo lojong she go yore re ta yang manda ba zyo tindri raw ndu sam ko ta nga chope na gar dala samlo ta na tindri re yang gomba sosola yang mandawa yang tini lalen ko thola mambondu.
So in terms of the ways that individual monasteries combine the theoretical or academic study of Buddhism with practice, there's diversity here. In terms of the first point that Kempo would like to make is that insofar as the academic or theoretical study of Buddhism is concerned, for example, using the primary methodology of debate, great consideration is given to the way that these methods do benefit the minds of the students. So at Larunga, whether it's in terms of the Madhyamika study or epistemology or Abhidhamma, a great deal of thought is given to how the teaching of these subjects enables students themselves to be benefited, and at the same time trains the students to be able to benefit others. Whether you would call this research or discussion, in any case, a lot of attention is given to these questions at meetings that are frequently held at Laronga. And if it is felt that things are excessively going in a what you might call scientific direction, that is all knowledge and no benefit to the mind, then changes are made and it's brought back in the other direction. If, on the other hand, it's felt that things are going purely in the direction of practice with not sufficient knowledge cultivation, and things are redirected slightly in the other direction with an attempt that students follow a middle path or a straight path in their education that balances both of these considerations. The other second difference that the traditional monastic situation might have from a university situation in terms of knowledge learning is, for example, at Laronga, every year for 1 month, no classes are held, and all students and teachers spend 1 month in retreat. So during this time at Laronga, it seems as if the place is deserted. Everybody is residing in their own dwellings. There's no one to be seen during the day. Perhaps sometimes in the late afternoon you see a few people out on the street, but essentially for a period of 1 month, everybody stays inside doing practice retreat. The intention is that this period of time could be 1 month, but sometimes, given different reasons, it ends up being around 20 days or so. But this is one important effort that is made to complement students' theoretical study of their theoretical program of Buddhist study. The third important point is that in addition to these things, students are expected to accumulate recitations of their particular idams, or particular idam mantra accumulation is required of the students too. So these are three ways in which the traditional monastic education might be different from the university context, although probably in both situations students are expected to do a lot of theoretical study and essentially working in cultivating their knowledge.
So I just wanted to make a little bit of a response to that based upon what we do in the Modern Research University. One thing that I think is not that uncommon is when he's talking about the care for how studies benefit people's minds and not just theoretical knowledge. I would say that's present in many parts of the university, where different faculty and curricular lessons are taking care to transmit knowledge, but also in a variety of ways taking care to help students cultivate experiences and personal capacities and growth. That, I think, is very common in many ways. What I think is hard to see in the modern university is the notion of lengthy periods of time during which students do any practices together, putting aside the issue of what the practices are. They don't have to be about meditation. They could be about whatever. But I don't really see that so much in the modern university. And we were talking about that a little bit, and a friend of mine who was at Valparaiso University said that when he was there, the first-year students at the end in the honors college all had to produce a play together. And so that was, I think, certainly an analog where for a number of days they are doing something together that has ritual elements to it, aesthetic elements, and so forth. I also see this in our business school, where one of our famous business school professors, Ed Freeman, does an entire MBA class where the students' main job is to produce a play together. And of course, we have an entire department devoted to such things, the drama department. So we can see analogs there, but the notion of the whole University of Virginia for 1 month stopping and together doing any kind of practices, whether they're devotional practices or service learning or putting on a play or sometimes a contemplative exercises, that strikes me as a rather significant difference.
No, okay. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to go back to the issue of theory and practice in the Sheja and make a comparison. So one of the things that we have students do in modern public universities is read a lot of literature. We have them read novels in particular. And I think that one of the reasons we do this is because we believe that it will make them more ethical people. Reading a novel is one way to develop an imagination that can imagine the joys and sufferings of other people. Students probably don't have that first and foremost in their mind when we're teaching them novels. But I think at the best of times, professors and students, they have that high ideal in mind. And so I want to ask him if he thinks of Madhyamaka philosophy. How can a highly developed, how can a lot of study of Madhyamaka philosophy make a more ethical person? Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because Madhyamaka philosophy is also about the nature of self and the nature of others.
Tini kunshut tangate the yarjis tangate ngacho gumba ga loso nade muir chishu chigre muir chishu chigre ta ina tini shetang ngacho gumba ina ta koso yarjit kunshu yarjit tangate pe na ngondo kondrata lobjong kondrata tini chapartan darwan rata tini shonjing rata tisu korta tini kunshut yarjit tongchi te tini gomaga tini shetang tini gomaga ta kunshu yarjit tangala ta gomag kyangwaga tini loso jab kumare gomata so ti gum jab tini zire reti ina tini gum yakpo jab ngoni changni gomaga nangla tini shapandra poti khoranga nyamnyung gugoni yakpo zu kosona tini di shiki tini ta khoranga semna yopi ndochagre jedangre tini ngargir chagdo teso sama mar mepa shi thap kare kanti teso mepa shi thap sona tani ngaso kunshu kyang tini ranshik tini yar tini yakpo yung thapya tini zi yung te chigre ni re tini goma nangla tini shapi tini ta tomba ni ki tonte yakpo khoro nyamnyung ha ko sona ranshik tini machama la tini nyarji te yung gare nyarji ke gare tini tomba ni ka te ton di shina tini nyarji ranshik ke gare tini nyarji te tini sem ko nala yakpo ke yona tini khorang ko shol mambo la chet ta nga chun din di shi gon din di shi na din di shi machine machok o din di te mazina khorang ranshik tini ji par jampan la tini samlo yakpo tang khandra jampan ke lekka len khandra tindi zre yung gore tindi te goma te shetang tindi ga kunshu tam dewa halipa chimbundu ta ina te nga su gomba ga na zo te goma ga she ga mari ta jamba so she kundu.
So in terms of the connection between the study of Madhyamaka philosophy and ethical behavior or and ethical subjectivity, this is not probably the primary purpose that we tend to think that the study of Madhyamaka philosophy is directed towards in terms of the cultivation of ethical behavior and ethical dispositions. We tend to more talk about the effect or we talk about this in terms of the preliminary practices or lojong mind training or study of the bodhisattva path, etc. We tend to regard these as more primary resources for the study of which. leads to ethical training. However, it is, and so the study of Madhyamaka philosophy is tended to be seen as something that is of more relevance to one's meditation and meditative understanding or realization. Having said that, though, we can say that a person with a good experiential understanding of Madhyamaka, that this would have benefit for their ethical self. For example, a good understanding of Madhyamaka, experiential understanding of Madhyamaka philosophy or the Madhyamaka teachings would enhance a student's capacity to curb or eliminate their desire, anger, jealousy, pride, etc. And so this would have benefit for their own ethical disposition. At the same time, too, an experiential understanding of the Madhyamaka teachings with this understanding of emptiness automatically or naturally arises compassion. Compassion on the part of the student or practitioner for others. And in this situation, it is not necessary to explicitly tell people that they should do this or they should do that in order to benefit others. Rather, their awareness of how to act and act compassionately comes automatically. So we could say that this is the ethical benefit that is attached to the study of Madhyamaka.
Good. Now I want to change the subject to the people who are benefiting from monastic education right now in contemporary Tibet. Traditionally, it's been monks, to a lesser extent nuns, but today we know that monasteries also teach children, and they teach lay communities of all ages. So Khenpo, can you tell us a little bit about monastic education directed to children and also to lay communities, lay adult communities?
어때 가서 주진 그 돌아야나 되니 곰바갈 호소 다 데라 로종 생긴도 쪼데 되니 자와리 돼 시당 자와다 주모니까 요요리 있다 이나 디나니 망치 휴데 자와리 되니 다 베나가서 볼 자즈라 삼로 땅바이나 참말라 셈거나라 출라 다바요리다 이나 되니 출라 되니 땅 잡부 고니 되니 로종 생긴도 되니 자바 아토바젠 바 망보즈 되니 다 문득 때라 김슨 망보즈 또 저데 나추지야데 때 배잖아 배나 차르거더니 짐징다 보배나 든지지겠나 때때라 칠리 빠진다 문다 고도 마토바다 배나 차르거 짐직된 배나 나서지 총 잡전라다 되니 저 찹시가 레카 레전라다 야나 장 모저다 되니 저 되니 좀 소절라 대 용삼마레 거랑 칠리 바 뭐든지 레카 링킨즈 고도 대 르니 강이나 르니 땅 잡보테서 참마 칠리가 뭐요 고도 칠리가 뭐메나 되니 te rinne de makashin rondo shertang ka so te la tin di mus gondo ta tin ja po yindi po ke na nama yana tin di zre ta tin di yindi tini shertang ka thoni ta nga so pe na mangsok yana re tini chomo yana re jamba tini s ke na ti thola lojong shina chokore chokmo chokshana samala chokore te yindi tartan ra po yana pe na nga so tini gar ra wo yana ya te gomba susula ya lelu mambo yor pe na nga so gar ra po yana tini di nane chu nga chu nachu go nane te tab depo teni kwal len na len teni lapota teni mangso kun chwa tam rewa yakbo yongkhen tenji ko rat teni mangso kun la teni pharat teni chapdar teni tangyo te chigre teni ni te nga chu shertang ina nga chu te garla teni ina ko chu yang trabata teni chomo indi teni yang shertang mo jamba tin la yong ne teni ndich ko mar ina yang tin la yang hloma da teni jimjuk shen khan jata 양나 때니 야르니 야르낭다 근낭라 때니 코초고 디 소종 신경 때리오나 묵서 때니 가서 배나 지 범메리나 때니 저 조모나란도니 소종 지야다 때니 자바이나 때니 디 자방나디 부즈기나 자방나나 도니 때 소종 신나 때 소종 지 초야가 때니 고 파르티니 신니 때니 다오 때니 시용 가서 가르라 부진다 때니 제티 셔당 가서 상지 공거더니 공방 뭐만 잡보였나 아니 뭐 참마거더니 다 소종도 냠순용나 용초야 되니지.
So it's true that in traditional Tibetan society that monks were the main recipients of specialist Buddhist education. Of course, there were nuns as well, both monks and nuns, but the majority were monks. Tibetans as a whole had faith in Buddhism. However, those actually studying the Buddhist teachings at a more deep and profound level tended to be monks. And of course, there are many reasons for this. One reason being that Buddhism, rather like science, is something that requires a group of specialists to study, a specialized training or specialized group of people learning and studying its knowledge. So it's not like something like business or plowing the fields or herding cattle, etc. It's something that without specialists committing themselves to its study and transmission, this form of knowledge would go into decline. However, in theory, of course, there are no restrictions on who is able to study the Buddhist teachings. Lay people can, nuns can, anyone is able to and allowed to study Buddhism. So some changes or some initiatives that have been undertaken at Larunga in this respect to make Buddhist education or teachings available to a wider spectrum of the community include presenting teachings in a more accessible, easily understood way to lay populations and in a way that more directly corresponds with their everyday life. So teachings that have been presented in this way have been disseminated among lay populations. So this is one thing that's done. Secondly, in general at monasteries, members of the outside community, lay people, for example, are not allowed to study among the monks and nuns. However, this is something that Larunga has done differently. Those, for example, research students or short-term students from outside are able to study among the monks and nuns for, let's say, during their summer or winter vacations or for other periods of time. Women are able to study among the nuns and men are able to study among the monks. So in terms of making this open door policy, this is one particular initiative that Larunga has taken. In general, in the time of the Buddha, monasteries were places that were open to any and all to study the Buddhist teachings.
So I think as we move to the conclusion of this, that we wanted to talk a little bit about what we see in the future of universities, future of monasteries. And in this context, Kempo had a couple of questions that he was going to pose back for us as a way to frame these.
Yes. Yeah. Ngarang tari tini Virginia lopta chimbonala yone girgan namba sota trwa goji tini yongwi korkup ngepe yakbo zare sam ti jimsen ji ngarang ga yang trwa de kashi de jabdik shiyo ta khongso yena tini khorang so tini charik ba zena dra tini lopta girgan chimbo ku zena dra khorang ga ti thokni phar nga chu tini bomba ga tini loso ta so la ta na tini Gandhi's tini yosare nge ti thone tra kachi ta gosam go dondak tambo ti pena nga cho tarta yana tini lobra chimbo tini loma cho go tini simkham la pe amna ton haliba chimbo ndug tini rigni haliba yargin ro ndug rete yinayo simkham la yargin ndug zambolong go tini lobra ang tangshu pena haba lobra chimbo da yana tini khorang cho go loma go gyacham jipchi yernga go tini to loma cho go sim go tola simkham go napa tini ta rendu Tindi yena tini te tang, tini te maimbi lopcha jamba tini nala pena nga chon zendra chik nala yena loma ta nga chon ang tangbo tini loma niyo na tini loma chikpo ti tini ngali tezi yarjin ro anda o tini ngala tokpa yo na tini ngi thana sem ko nala marga wata tini matsat tini ngi tela tiktam ni tini taga te lopchok te sar shakaya tini thonggo doa te chigya. Teni ni de teni nga cho lobri dikshut chi ta lobcha ga nang la teni dikshut dikchup ko shopa pe na chi lobcha ga nang la da chi te chi wangcha yong kan na da yang na chi teni nipa yong kan so teni chongshong cho la donggyu tanam na chut hale pa nga cho di chatok la namjin teri mambu thong dik ta teni yong dik so sama lobcha ga teni simkhum ga teni natun rindik tindi indi di natun da tini takshu sheki tabshi yakshu di tini gaya na nge zhiwa tangbo di di.
So I've been here at the University of Virginia and have had this opportunity to speak with a lot of teachers and researchers, and now I've got this opportunity to pose a few questions myself, and so I'm glad to have this opportunity. And the first question that I would like to ask to both Curtis and David in their capacities as university teachers or educators is how they, from their perspective, view the traditional Tibetan monastic education system. That is the first question. The second question relates to psychological issues or mental health issues which seem to be extremely prevalent among students in Western educational institutions. That is to say, the knowledge of these students, their knowledge levels are extremely high, but they seem to be encountering a lot of psychological illnesses, and mental illness seems to be very widespread. I've heard, for example, in the first-rate academic institutions of the US that as much as 45% of the student population suffers mental illness at any one time. I've also heard of situations where in one class, let's just say among the top 2 best students, that one student might feel when the other student gets the better of them, gets a little bit ahead, that they don't just feel unhappy about this, but they also, that there have been cases of people taking such drastic measures as even poisoning the person who is getting ahead of them. And not just this, also bullying. That is where students with power or clout, they use this to bully others, sometimes physically hurting them, etc. There are many cases of this on the internet. In any case, all of these are psychological issues, they're psychological problems, and my question would be is, what do you think is the best way to go about solving or addressing these mental challenges or psychological challenges that seem to be so prevalent?
Those are easy.
First question was, how do we view the Tibetan Buddhist monastic education?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, well, let's see. I'll focus on what I think is positive about it that I don't see us doing well enough. And that is, it's a couple things actually. One is a sustained attention to the relationship between theory and practice, or between making things and reflecting on the value of making those things. We have colleges that are dedicated towards scientific innovation, and we have colleges that are dedicated towards liberal arts, or sometimes learning for self-cultivation. But very often those two are distinct. And what you've described, at least in the ideal sense of your discussion about modern monastic education, is a place where you're really trying to integrate theory and practice, integrate making things and reflecting on the value both for individuals and for societies. And I think that's really valuable. The other thing that I think monasteries do, that especially the Sheja, the philosophical college, or the academic side of things, is that you spend a lot of time studying single subjects. So you have multiple years for a single type of philosophy. You have ways to develop experts that sometimes we don't make time for. We have majors, concentrations of classes, but sometimes those are very haphazard. And long-term learning of specific, very deep topics, I think is good for people at times. Sometimes we don't do that well enough. What do you think?
Well, I would just add 3 other things of value, and then I'm going to, since I'm a more negative person than Curtis.
It's black.
Yeah, black. I'm going to give 2 things that I see critical. So 3 things I see of value is that when you live in a monastery, and I've lived in his monastery and I've lived in a lot of other monasteries, there's a very common notion about why people are there. It doesn't mean it's why everybody's there. It doesn't mean what they actually do is completely aligned with that. But it's very common to be talking in the way he talks, which is that we're here for the common good. This is about education, to be more caring, etc. And I think regardless of the difference between that and actual practice, that there's something positive to be said about a communal agreement that that's why we're here. And I don't think we always share that in public universities. A second thing is, I think there's great value to these collective practices. The idea that there are moments, a week, 2 weeks, even a month, when everybody is engaged in common activity that expresses a sense of shared purpose and shared identity. We don't have that. And I think there's something that we've really lost about that. And the third thing, I think, has to do with contemplative practices and placing an importance and a priority on those. But I should say that anybody who's familiar with the history of the West knows that we are very familiar with monasteries. The kind of monastic education he's talking about, it was all over Europe, everywhere. There were hundreds and hundreds of monasteries with exactly these kinds of practices and goals and agendas and so forth. And we made a historical and very often violent decision to break those up. So we're not coming to monasteries as if, wow, never heard of that thing. This is something that we decided to put behind us. And so now we're at a moment when we're thinking, well, so the university hasn't quite worked out the way we hoped it would. Some great things have happened, and a lot of very negative things have happened, such as the exponential growth in mental illness among students. Every year, last year, this year, number of kids who are hospitalized, which means we think they're going to kill themselves. Exponential growth. So as we, at this moment, look back and think, well, we used to have lots of monasteries. Now we have lots of universities. What did we leave behind? What did we choose to encourage? And how might we adjust those decisions? So those are some good things that we could go back to Christian university, Christian monasteries, Jewish, Islamic, etc., Buddhist monasteries, and think about. But I would say 2 things that I don't see so great in the modern Buddhist university. And that I think I see some really good things here in our university. One would be creativity. If I'm going to look in Tibetan society for genuinely creative developments, intellectually and artistically, I won't go to the monastery. I see them. I see them in the explosion of new filmmaking. I see them in the explosion of poetry and novel writing. I see them in the explosion of popular music and contemporary Tibetan art. That's where I see creativity. And I'd like to see that and the traditional Tibetan monastery be more connected to each other. And the second thing I would say is that all institutions, in the end, have power issues of hierarchy and inequity and imbalance. And I think that in the monastery, that discussion isn't really as open as it should be. And the university, as we've all seen very clearly over the past couple of years, the discussion is much more open. Does that mean we have a much better situation? We obviously have a lot of problems. But I think if we're going to deal with our problems, there's got to be an open discussion of them. And I think that's something that universities have created more of an open space for that. So those are two things that I would say, not so bad. So we should answer about all of our...
I wonder if Kempo has any response.
We didn't answer about the Sen Tang Tang Tandala Gemasa. Okay. You got an answer?
What, for the
Psychological
why so much? Well,
No, not why so much. Like, what are we going to do about it?
oh, no. No, I don't. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I have an analysis, and that's that, and it's competition. Competition leads to stress. And I think that's at the root of so many of our problems. And it starts it doesn't start in college. It starts in grade school now. We're a deeply competitive society. But I want to ask if you see that in the monastery, because I think that competition is probably happening in modern Chinese society. And do you feel it in the monastery as well?
곰파나라 가서 소비좀 끝나라 한서 지금 잠들다보다 되니 조지요리 페나가 가르라 라룬가라 니니 도종시니다 로 파티심시다고 되리레서 되니 지 로쳔보착 사리카서 뭐보요 마 옛날 로 뇽뇽인 비카서 갈란도네 페나 로 진다 되니 나라 인가서 로마서 나라에나 판선티니 쪼밤 뭐보여 그래 나랑 따와요 코랑 따와요 머니기 varla tawa thoni madrina shetam tawa ga ton tagre ta yana kale ngani ka mager ga ton tagra wa chakra re teni dawata teni yana pena teni nge chik teni jong chik teni yaboz lo la linge ga thola yang teni nge chik tamna korang ga chik tam shekan dawo thoyona yang nge tez tammandu samban dawo teni kaji yore teni ngachu girgun cho chet teni ngachu la nonshik yang tez chakre te nonshik ta zawani mena yang jukumandu te zawa 노식 치치소나 가zor라 뇽데도레 마토바 노식 자와네 메나 용 로종고 토라 야르게 양다가 다 간터 가소고니 스토징가 타와드틴 디즈레 데즈고레 덴딘 다워테즈 요 마토바 딜레 잠바 노식 쳔보 요 마레타 점슨셰레즈나 가소 페나 보그 곰바가나니 소소테니 타르신 차비 지니 테니 나랑가 샤와 아락마락 테네삼고 마레 테카라 샤와 teni nga so shiso kothong dawo teni jamdir chimbo rachun chibo ngaranga shawa yakboz arangmara teni ngaranga teni yang shawa tela teni ngaranga chi teni chi ger ke yang chi leka mamboz teni yong mayo to so kora ga teni semter te tez chungchung re ta teni yendi chimbo mndug de ngesam lo tona gomba na la chawane mezena tez yo kore na chimbo mndug sam yo.
So in terms of the question of competition, of course, this does exist to some extent in Tibetan monasteries. In my case, from the time I arrived at Larunga until the present, 30 years have passed. And in particular, when I first arrived, when I was younger, the first 10 years that I was there was a period of intense study, a lot of debate, and of course, during these times, one person would have their view, the other person would have one person would have his view, the other person would have theirs, and even though it began as a difference in opinions, this would sometimes turn into personal conflicts between people. There were maybe other situations where one student was able to memorize a text completely and the other was only able to memorize half, and they got their nose a bit out of joint over this. In general, teachers also applied or gave us a bit of pressure to assist us in progressing in our studies. Having no pressure whatsoever is not acceptable. On the other hand, or having too much pressure, on the other hand, is also harmful. So the traditional viewpoint would be that some pressure is beneficial to students' academic advancement. But probably the reason that we don't have as much competition or stress that comes from it in the monastery situation compared to the rest of society is that students in a monastery don't have to worry about whether or not they're going to get a job or not after they graduate. So because they have fewer worries about this, fewer concerns about whether they'll get a job or their own individual situations upon graduation, probably there's less psychological stress stemming from this competition.
So we're going to bring it to a close in a moment, but I just wanted to answer about the prevalence of mental challenges within our student body. I think the way we're going to address that is not by bringing more counselors and more help in the student health to bear upon the problem, because that's at the other end of the problem. And what we need to do instead is something that, whether or not we do it, I think will define what we really care about in higher education. If we do not do this, then I think it's quite clear that we do not really prioritize the personal development of our students. I think this is a juncture that we're at in higher education. And the first thing is, we have to reintegrate the residential and the academic. We cannot have the classroom and the personal space in the dorms and the frats and the sororities be so completely different from each other as they currently are. These two have to be lifted back into an integrated whole. The classroom needs to be more about people's personal development, personal experiences, and so forth. And the residential experience has to be more about knowledge and growth. And in terms of doing that, I think from the day the students arrive on grounds, we need to communicate to them in a variety of ways that a crucial part of your education over the next 4 years is about understanding where you are in your life and your abilities, your body, your emotional health, your social capacity, your ability to concentrate, your ability to be creative, and that all of us, when we think about these individual things, how well do I concentrate? How well can I empathize with other people? How much compassion do I have? How much can I analyze? That we're all on a big spectrum. Some of us have this well developed and this very poorly developed. And for the next 4 years, we have to constantly be coming back to these and trying to address the things that are less well developed. It's not something wrong with us, but rather that's what education is. And the things that we're trying to push to become more developed are not simply the parts that make us better at analysis and better at communication through writing. Those are important, but so are these other aspects. And so, if we were able to create an environment like that from day one, when 18-year-olds arrive on campus, and we communicate it in our classrooms, in our syllabus, in the residential experience, then I think we're going to see students who are on a pathway towards becoming much calmer, much more wise at the practical level, and much more able to cope with the astonishing rate of change that we currently experience in our lives, individually and collectively, and the stress that goes together with that. Blah, blah, blah. So that to me would be the pathway that if we chose, then we could really say 10 years later, American higher education, we care enough to care. Right now, I don't think we can honestly say that and not be hypocritical. So we have one final question for Kempo.
Well, during that very long speech, I was thinking that in some ways today we both have the same students. We share students now. There are Chinese students here. There are Tibetan students here. You know, most of them are lay people. Every once in a while, there's a monastic that comes to higher education, but it's a shared world now. So both of our institutions of higher learning are sharing similar challenges, and I want to ask you a similar question that you asked us, not about mental illness, but about what do you think needs to change in your kind of institution to meet the next 10 years of change in China and the world? What needs to change about the monastery?
다 sherdam mususu late yang jamjag samlo mambo yujiri ngarang gir ketini samlo ina ngaso tini stojing ketini gomba kete soso telate soso nangdung ke thola ta jirata gomba ta soso jaksar ke thola tini tez da jirju ta jaggo tini samgyo tondak tampo de kangrezena ngaso tini ta gomba ketini soso nangni tini 차시식들이 참마도 말에 tini 차시식들 tini 아주 수속다 할리바 카탁 니부 시제당 등 초와당 tini 카탁 니부 시제 디토라 tini 고운득 시당 가서 못 반자진나 시당 tini 단 초와 나라 tini 추도 tini 초 조바 양바 강난 초와 땅라 tini 하정 직용지다 이나 tini 양 마음발라 따로 탑시 사람도 마시나 디르브 사바리 손디 tini 문남 그 삼로 사바인디 대당 탐바즈 제 고디 때니 대 gerçekçi resam goyozi ta gerçekçi gona tezi yargi tanga wa tindizre gerçekçi mazda marita tezçi reason.
So this is something that many people have different views on. In terms of my own opinion on this question, I would say that the traditional content of the Tibetan monastic system is not something that needs to be changed. However, a few changes could be made to the way that we deliver this content, or the way the education system, the method. So the first point is that that some monasteries, a percentage or a proportion of monasteries, need to cultivate closer connections with society. So in general, Buddhism has a great influence and involvement in the lives of Tibetans, lay communities, farmers, nomads, etc. However, given the changing times, it's necessary that we need new ways to deliver Buddhism among the lay community. And so this is one way that you could say we might develop. It's not a reform or a change so much as an area that we could improve in.
Teni nipata ngaso pena storjing teni nachu to thola teni tasta teni rangshong char ko teni sot sarwa kashi teni thola teni nung ko sare sambundu te Gimson Kang Rezina Tanga to young Hamagatini, the Penam Bandata, the so Nangla, the ne, the young Jisting Kamlan Reshit in the Mambo Yonretini. Yanaya, this was Tastagatini Reshit Tantani, Tasta Tayona, Tastagatini Nansata, Mountain Banda with the Dio. Yana, the mountain be Gimson, the Gang, Goni Shongari, not so Hagoyo, the low tone trusting that in his Goni, young Mohamanam Gotini, Jim Jixini, the mountain bar. Younger rezi, young Gimson and Dentis rezi netini Shajang to Yona, Mountain Bati, Korang, Tinti Mountain by Yopati, Gimson and Dambas Reta Yinayang, Tarti Tini as injecting the land Tanti Jabgo, young Sarkanani Antony, young Takbayam Batini, Nora Mepa, the Sukoratan as Namba Nala, Tets Jana, Teni Sangi Rangatini Songanala, Titola, Ha Lepa, young Botini, Shajang, Tendi, Tets Natsu Nangchu with any Jisting Katawa, Yartets Yargin.
The second aspect that improvements could be made in is the addition of some subjects or natural science subjects being added to the traditional curriculum. So at present, we have the Abhidharma teachings that we study, and they present one account of the world, one cosmological account, and it's one that isn't in accordance with contemporary scientific explanations of the world. And of course, there are clear reasons for this being the case. These texts were composed a long time ago, and so the explanations that they gave were clearly in accordance with particular conditions at the time. We can understand that. However, regardless the situation, these accounts are not in accordance with our contemporary situation. Where we are now, we need to have accurate and error-free explanations and accounts of the natural world. And if this could be added upon the foundation of the traditional curriculum, this would be very good. In general, Buddhism takes a very open-minded approach to this.
Tani sambata tani nyamling ka tani shok tanga tso tani lojong dang nyamling ze yangna tani chanyin dang tani gumdrup ze ta tani zina tomba tontak chik bari ti nani nga tso maung bala ta tsuwo ti tarong ti nyamling ka shok te la te zin rotabna te yak bore sam kuyo kare zina maung be nga tso shisok te pe nyokta chi si zi te nro re zambalang ta tartan de nyokta chimbo mambo re tarong yang nyokta chimbo mambo 용거래 되니 쇼근 욕다양 몸보 용근도 샘캄 그 욕다 딜리장 치보 용근도 대이 값스 되니 가서 르피 종력 치보 탁수시거나 자원에 탁수시고도 저 탁수시탑만도 몸보스 냠용다 냠링 그 통에 되니 탁수시고도 되니 옛나다가 곰그 통라 곰 냠링 그 통라 대지 식침본다 원조트나 약보레 삼고요 대 선바요.
And the third aspect that I think, if improved, would be useful in the future is, in terms of study and practice, putting more emphasis on the practice side of things. The reason for this being that we exist in a complex society, and only a society that is only growing more complex. We have lots of problems now, more are coming in the future. And whether in terms of the external world, the material world, or at a psychological level in our own minds. And in the face of these challenges, theoretical understanding or theoretical knowledge itself is insufficient to address these challenges. It's necessary that we have a practical, internalized understanding, and that will be able to help us meet these challenges. So for this reason, if we were to place more emphasis on practice, on meditation, this would be the third aspect of meeting future needs in a positive way.
Teni tendishi jana gacho bena shisoko tola teni shisoko todan chuwa tola teze mambon rawo shirtang meban mari tarnga yore ta yena teze mambon rawo rotop sona teni gacho chuto gumba gna la te lama da tawa cho chi teni jimjik shia ta lama tawa cho chi gumja ya tendishi chipo mayen ba gacho shisok chama ta mi chama la teni pantong roya tendishi yonsare nikala pantong ya yonsare samgudu te guba tambore guba ni pate teni gacho pena ripa sarwa charik tang teni chuluk teni yena yana teni ta charik ta chorgin rinne sarwa tang nyamba nyamdo teni zombi ne kamna pena nashuk to lorji ki thola yana rinne ni ka nyamdo thone teni ti thola mambo kanti shego mako teni ti thola chopa mambo jab teni ta ramda leka yang mambo le teni lene teni tasti par teni manam ga sem ga nangla teni yet phamba lo phamba ga teni nesar mambo teni shong yore teni ngachu teni shong nan dokme teni yendi teni ngachu te shong go yang mandu tena charik tang na nipo yakbo zu ka thone teni te lamkha yakbo zu ka thone na tang tarab zina charik ta chulik zina teni nika ga thone lamkha yakbo zu ka thola rothya ga te yakbo yongsare sam ga tongda nipa te teni samba te nyamling te te yakbo zu she jana ngachu pen nyamling te ngachu lama ta ba ge nyamling she teni ngachu murkya phumbo ga nyamling she teni shi na teni soso sim ko tola teni yarje ta na ta sim kham ko tola dekhe ta sim kham ko dungmar teni mamboz ta rendo te tachu shi ta sare teni korang chula ta pa shi na ndge yore te chula ta pa ma shi na ndge yore pe na nga so de nang chu ko na la yopi teni ton ta mamboz teni soso la teni ta par nyam silen chigna ti phamba hali pa yak bo america shi so ko na la mut teni mamboz ko tene ngacho nangchu ko tamba nyer jak gum jap kandu te europe la jap kandu manjambal ka sakala jap kandu rete khoso chama te nangba changji pa ta ta rezena mare kashi thana sawa ni chulu ko tapa men ke tindi yom du yina khosola tini to te phandi thong ro du tindi yina ngacho nyamling ge shote la te japna tani mambola tani phan thong ro sa resam tindi te sosum ko kola maombala shingnon je gona lakchu tindi shetam na ngayak bore sambudu.
And the reasons for why I think these three aspects are important directions to work on for the future are that the first reason would be that they would lead to not only benefit for residents in the monastery, in the sheja or in the drupja, but also for society as a whole. Secondly, in terms of the integration of new knowledge, scientific knowledge, and traditional knowledge, this is something that in the experience of the West has not been a smooth path. There's been a lot of debate about this, there's been a lot of conflict, and there's been a lot of great sense of disappointment or failure even at the extent to which this has been successfully accomplished. So in the Tibetan situation, we don't wish for a situation like this. We rather would hope to combine the traditional and the new, or the traditional and the scientific, in a harmonious way, in a way that presents a harmonious and complementary future path for society. And then third point would be that practice, placing emphasis on practice, not just for monastics, but also for members of the lay population, would give everyone resources to deal with suffering and challenges that they face. And this is something that doesn't require people to have Buddhist faith necessarily. Benefit can be gained by people through the meditational practice, regardless of whether they have Buddhist faith or not. And we can see this very clearly in the situation in the case of Europe and America, where so many people are practicing mindfulness meditation. By no means all of these people, in fact, the majority probably don't have Buddhist faith, and yet it is clear that they're gaining a great deal of benefit from this practice. So I think that these are three important aspects of the improvements that we can make in the future.
Got more questions? You have more questions for us?
Yeah. Tani maung ba kola darung atra nindusi. Tani chikta peranga chu gomba ga tani ta soso nala yupi nangdun tichu yena tani tota chimo ta ta lomala perna tani nangdun ga nani chashi tani khochola lamna khocho go tani magir ga tani ta yargi ndola phamba yosa aris. Oh yeah, nga the gomba nga chu gomba ga tini lobso nangla yopi nangdon khashiz tini nga chu lobta chimo tini nangla lobchit ka nangla jarna nga chu lobta chimo loma so mgir ka tini yarjin royala phantok yosa aris tini kati phantok yona ta tindi korla tini lobta chimo chola ti charge maung bi charge ayos.
So do you think that there are aspects or components of the monastic education system that could be incorporated into the Western university education system that would be of benefit to the personal development of students? And if so, do you know of any concrete plans in place to make these additions or changes, or to incorporate these aspects?
Meditation is a clear one now, which is a kind of practice, as you mentioned earlier, that is become a part of healthcare for the past 4 decades and is now being extended to other uses, including education. It's used for the types of issues of mental health and stress that David mentioned earlier. I think the big challenge is to create systems, contemplative systems that are secular for public universities, and to show through scientific research that there's value, that there's lasting value in meditation. These are two big challenges to implementing meditation in a modern setting, in a modern educational setting. But yes, it's happening all over the place in universities today.
Yeah, and I would just add to that there's a lot of efforts to address the issue of compassion in higher education. And so, for example, he talked with our Dean of Nursing here about Dory Fontaine, about the Compassionate Care Initiative, which is completely organized around how to cultivate and facilitate the development of compassion that allows people to care for others in a sustainable fashion. And we also heard about that today from the School of Education here, that has developed an entire curriculum for K through 5 that's, again, developed around compassion and how to facilitate the emergence of compassion in our youth and so forth, and how also to bring this into the context of supporting the training of teachers to teach our younger generations. I think we also see the attempt to develop compassion in higher education in service learning, types of learning programs that get students out there in the community and doing activity with others as a way of learning about themselves and the world. And I could continue in many different ways. So I think there's a lot of efforts to bring what we talked about in terms of compassion and compassion training and the prioritization of compassion that we see from the monasteries into higher education.
야, 드니 나랑 그 저와 타마드인 저와 타마드 요. 저와 타마드더니
That's the last question.
저 타마드 거리스나 딩가서 곰바다 롭다 침보니까 그더니 냠진자 보시니 냠진이나 빼나 가서 롭다 침보 나라 요피 롭천 곰발라 코아티소 곰바가 나라 때서 롭치시 드니 곰바가 나라 용큰 거 롭천 딘디 롭다 침보 롭마솔람 코아티소 롭다 침보 나라 딘디 롭치시 딘디 그 냠진제고나 종들 딘디 시나 마음비 딘디 시속라 판바 요사리다 노바 요사리
loma so rong so tenang kum ka loma teni lop chu mo nanan ru
teni lopta chimo loma chola tambo shung de tan loma cho maung bala shi chok tola do gura teni na teni shi sola phamba yo sere no pa yo
mare di nyam ju shi ti zo teni di chichi ki nang den teni phain sun teni nyam ju shi ya tam teni loma so pa ya
je ta gomba ga pena gomba ga teni ti lopta khashi se lopta chimo lopta loma la chup teni lopta chimo teni nangdong kashi sa nga so gomba nga la traba chola lap tendu shina di jirkin la tenne nga so shusok la tenne pamba yo sare ta no pa yo sare.
Do you think that it would be beneficial if components of the monastic curriculum were taught in universities and components of the university curriculum were taught in monasteries, such as lessons or certain classes from monasteries were taught in the university context and the other way around, particularly university classes or lessons were incorporated in the monastic curriculum? Do you think that this would be something that would be beneficial to society?
So why don't you answer the monks in the university question, and I'll take the professors in the monastery question. It's just an idea.
It's all one question. Yeah.
What's it? Bi-directional.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to answer Michael's answer.
You just say what you want to say.
say what you want to say.
You got it. And I'll say what I want to say.
Yeah. So my answer is about how the universities might help in monasteries. And I could see 3 ways. So one is really obvious based upon what he just said he'd like to see in the future, which is if you want scientific lessons, natural science curricular units, that's obviously something that universities could contribute back to monasteries in terms of helping develop that curriculum. A second thing is, Kempo talked a bit about the need for some parts of the monastery learning better how to outreach to lay people, how to communicate to lay people. And I think the university could help a lot with reflecting on pedagogy. What are the different kinds of instruction? What does research tell us about their impact, both positive and negative? And how might those reflections and deliberations help monks begin to think about how to improve potentially the way they teach their own kind and the way they might adapt these lessons to teach others outside. And the third thing I would say would be having people come over there and potentially teach about other religions and other philosophies, I think could help spark new ways of thinking about their own traditions, to look at those in contrast to other people's philosophical reflection.
Okay, yeah, I had a more general answer, which was I don't think we know yet what specific types of practices are going to be good from one to move in some way from one institution to another. I think that the more important question that will that will develop answers, specific answers, is that both types of institutions are based on a notion of human good and social good. And we should keep that in the forefront, and we should keep on asking each other, how do you bring that into reality? And I think the conversation is more important. We're in an interesting moment right now where we get to do this. 20 years ago, we couldn't do this very easily. And I think one of the things that it's going to take for this to be a successful conversation over the course of a decade or two, beyond all of our lives, is that we can't be so prideful about the absolute truths of our respective institutions. We need to be able to give up something on both sides. We're very prideful at places like modern universities. Buddhist tradition is also very prideful too. And you said earlier that Buddhism is pragmatic. It can borrow things and it can share things. And I think that both institutions need to be ready to do that across many difficult and complex borders that separate us.
So I'm going to give my two monks in the university, since you didn't mention that per se. I'm the specific one. You're the generalist.
Fine.
That's our relationship. Yeah. So one, I think, is pretty obvious, which is contemplation. This is something that universities have largely defined themselves as not doing. They do in the reflective sense, to contemplate, to think deeply, to ponder deeply, but they haven't done so much of late in terms of a broad variety of practices that involve visualization in your body and attempts to foster empathy and concentration and so forth. So that's one thing that we could learn. And the second thing is retreats. And retreats, you can do many different things on retreats, but the notion of stopping business as usual and taking a weekend out, taking a week out, and engaging in immersive education, immersive learning experiences, learning that isn't just about yourself being solitary, it can also be about with other people, and the kinds of authentic communication that can come into being between different people when you're taken out of your ordinary context. You're not 4 hours together and then back to the beer, or 3 hours together and then back to a class. You're out for an entire weekend or a week. I think that's something that monasteries historically do really well, and we do really, really poorly. And even if all you do is one retreat over the course of your year-long experience as a first year, I think it can be a touchstone for really understanding your body and your mind and your possibilities and other people in very different ways that can transform the entire year. So with that, I think this has been really long. We knew it was long. That's why we did say it would be long. Well, we didn't say that per se, but we said so in the advertisement. But maybe we have 11 minutes, since you've all stayed here so long. If you want to leave, it's no problem. We have 11 minutes. If you have any questions, we could address those and then break at 7 precisely.
So this is a question for the panel, so both on the research university and the monastery. And I have two questions. So first is, ideally speaking, what do you think was the function of the time a person spent at a monastery or a research university in their personal life trajectory? So if you spent, say, 4 years as an undergrad, or 10 years or more as a grad student, what was that time supposed to mean in your personal life trajectory, or as a monk or a nun, if you spent 20 years or more? And the second is, ideally speaking, what was the function of that institution, a monastery or a research university, in society? And do you think we need to rethink that function that these institutions fulfilled in society?
The first question Yeah, I think it's the one time in life and place in life where you, on balance, you have time to think about meaning, to think about the meaning of life, to be really purple and platitudinous about it. Yeah? And that is a time that can take you through to the rest of your life. Yeah? It's really important, and it's really rare, and it's really valuable. Yeah? The second one,
For grad students?
yeah, and for graduate students, you get a lot more time. No, you have to, then your mission it's reversed. If you're a graduate student, we spend so much time gaining technical skills, whether it's in the sciences or the liberal arts or whatever, but you have to become the person that makes that space real for the next generation. And that's a lot of work. It's a lot of ethical work to do that. Yeah? And you have to balance that with all the administrative challenges that come with trying to make that happen. Yeah? And that interfere directly with that happening.
I would just say to combine both of your questions into one simple response, which is too often we have created divisions between different things and said, we're that, but we're not this. And so we get very concerned about thinking the college is just becoming a transactional place where you get certain credentials that allow you to get a job, or certain very pragmatic skills you then use in your professional career and so forth. And then we juxtapose that, at least in the humanities, to the kind of reflective activities that we traditionally do in the humanities. And I think this is not the right way to go. We have to collapse these two together. We have to understand that what you're going to engage in your professional life, if that isn't seen as a profound activity, then we're never going to succeed at preparing our students to bring these considerations, interpretive and ethical and so forth, into their personal lives and in their professional lives. We can't trivialize preparing people for a job by exalting our humanistic reflections. And neither can we drag those down to someone's pragmatic conception of what it means to prepare for a profession. They both have to be lifted up. And I think right now we're in an extended argument about how we're dragging everything down on both sides.
Morgatani yosari the tambote mesalo tana kyaran katanguni re macho mo zambolong katola mo mang chishutila mesiachikanala tini mulo nishichan doma sammato yo maris ta lojong sushina lobchone ngacho ta bulchor khani lojong shi jagna tini lobtachi montar mashin ramjum ba mathung gwad mulo nishin londongwa tenga zambolong mo mang chishutila mesiachikanala tini mulo nishichan sammato yo maris doma sammato koso ta lo tikchi
So it is true that in the world today, if a person lives for a period of 60 years, that 20 of those are spent in the course of education, taking into account their primary, their middle school, and their university education.
Droamir shila trava ko gojis res. Droamir shitbla.
Oh yes. So this question as to whether we should spend this amount of time on education or to what end it should be put is a question facing all of humanity.
Ina ngatsu te tin lojong tin yang se shi go da margo tin ngatsu on chowat nyota chimachi la tu yores.
Tini hakomaso.
Lojong tin yang rambo se shi go da margo tin ngatsu chowat nyota chimbo yinda mayin bala tu yores ngatsu pe nan chowa nyota chimbo se cherna.
It depends on how much study we need. It depends on how complexity of our society is.
Then ngatsu droamir shikip ko ngatsu chowa tin nyota chimbo se margo tin zena ngatsu lojong ante mambo ko mandus.
So if we decide that we don't need a society that is so complex, then it's okay if we don't do so much study.
Teni nga tsu nang chun da zin na go re se korang ma che chi ko ton da mari ma che mambo ko ton da re te lo jong go re se.
However, from the Buddhist point of view, of course, we do need this study. This study is not just something that is in respect of goals in this life, it is in respect of goals that transcend this life.
Teni nga tsu teni jikten ga teni ta ga ta ndu so samay na na. Nga tsu jikten ga teni ta ga ta ndi rigni te so na na nga tsu chong ka kap se lo jong she ni ndeni yar ro ne teni mar so ne ta de la thon bi te samayang kort gre gre samag yin ro go res. Aha. Nga tsu kort ni
Ya tingi hako so yang ya sung ro na ngi apo nyema.
Of course ya ta te nga so kort ni teni lo jong she ni yang ma che shi kum jig zog bin ne kum yang sama kort gre ki res. Shiyon te so
La se. Shi yun de su ku da wa ko.
lo jong nga so lo da chim mo ni lo jong yang rambo zi she na yang se. Teni di kort ki to ni yar lo jong she ni thama yang kort gre ki res.
So even if we do a great deal of study in this lifetime and we can imagine our life as one circle beginning at zero and then circling around accumulating a lot of knowledge, inevitably, however, we return to 0 point at the end of our lifetime.
Teni yindi tela teni lo jong mambo go mar go nga so to ba hale ba ke chim bo yo zi tela.
So the question as to whether we need so much study then in light of this is something that we can raise a lot of doubts about in respect of.
Teni ni pa dum morang ka tra ta nga so gomba da teni lo ta ni ka shi so la ni pa kan thong yin sa nga sam lo ta na ti ni ka de go ndu se tari khong la gin na ba so ya ti song song pe na nga so lo ta chim mo teni drip ma tha pa gomba ga drip thap ki tin yang mam bon de gomba ga drip ma tha pa teni lo ta chim bo drip thap ya mam bon de dor dini lamo shi ni sha na gomba ga lo so ti nga so mo sim kham yar gi ta teni kan shu sa ji jim tho la ta ya te go re teni lo ta chim mo teni ta ga de jim jik ta lo ta chim mo lo jong ta nga so teni pam jur yar gi ro ta teni jambalang ga teni distort teni ta ga ta sardan chi pa te ni ka re so tinri yendi ni ka de yo na pe yak bo re sam ga du se nge sam na ni ka de menan ju samare ching menan ju samare sam ga du.
As for monasteries and universities, I'm of the view that we need both. We can't afford to be without one or the other. They both have their respective strengths, things that they do better than the other. Insofar as monasteries are concerned, we could say that they are particularly strong in training people's minds in terms of self-development, development of one's minds, as well as in terms of cultivating ethical behavior and so on. Secular universities, on the other hand, are obviously very key in terms of economical and material development, developing of communications and so on. Both of these are positive and useful things, and so they are complementary, and we need them both.
If you have an extremely short question, I mean just one small question, no comment, because we are at 7 o'clock, and it has to be directed to him, and it can't take longer than 60 seconds. Okay. Those are a lot of conditions.
Let me directly ask Contempo in Tibetan first. Contempo Tibetan shi. The ngatu nang shu the ngani boki chi sola. Dangi chi je chi so se me. Bobe chi so kwarang ge nang ni kwarang jo ma top de yo wa da. Kwarang chi so kwarang bobe nang shu de bobe chi so ne nyam ro ya ge. Nyam ro ma se ren be ni la ro ya ge nyang kha yo wa. Bobe nang shu de. Cha da de nyang kha di jo ya la. Ani kangan mong ti ka so jo kangan zo je bu je mong bu yo. Ti na chi cha ge. Cha dang je dang. 真这个蒙蒙被几单个那次蒙不起用过吧？就，就是被这把这三分钟呢，这个那么来是这这个没得吧？对不对？看这个没得，这个的，俺穷人当呀当，人的能买的当呀个他们就要嘛的是。So let me translate my question. My question is, so in Tibetan Buddhism, and I mean today in Tibetan Buddhism facing a tremendous difficulty in terms of preservation. We don't know how long it will be lasted for. So there are so many things contribute to this dangerous condition. Okay. So one thing, I think the condition is about the idea of divine and the gods and the demons and those kind of even the unseen worlds as you cannot really apply any logical or any reasoning, any scientific studies. But for Tibetan Buddhism, that's a very important element. So my question to Contempo is there a way, in order to survive in Tibetan Buddhism, right, in the future and future world, inside Tibet, I'm not talking about the world scale, and inside Tibet, can we minimize or reducing or even ignore those elements of the Tibetan Buddhism?
당내 상로 당나 시당 가서 남바가 주 차버든 가서 되니 보바가 상가 가고 되니 옛나 디나라 사단제다 되니 mam보샤게요 베나 되니 더 질 한제 거 mam보 되니 마른 더고야 요래 야 조고야 요래 되니 거 다네 바 mam보레 레테 옛나 당 가서 우니 장니 담바 아주 담바 마르 신적한데 양 되니 먹을 시긴데 제가 야라 짜수 신적한데 양 먹을 때 짜수 시송마도 바 하가 수작 받은 제가 수작한다고 하가 티 자서 수작한다고 든디든 통진문도가 든디 옛날에 시당 띵아츠다 삼바 삼로나라 든디 요리 때문에 바시 고즈나 양 mam보 셈가나라 대즈 뇨타 용사레 레테 옛나 돈 우마데 가서 돈 우마데라 카쇼고 근데 가서 사마 미티니다 좋은 초왕 우마데라 카쇼 네서 우마데라 카쇼네 레칼레기드 든디 레고사레 코서 셈노니 컨디시나 땡에 삼난다 tumdu samyana leka leati nguni tema to balhata tindi ko tola mamboz tindi shijana tezanga chonyota yong sari samadu ta chorang katwa de ko ndu ina tangi tindi lanjam ko sari
So it's true that in Tibetan Buddhism, in the Tantra, for example, there's a lot of talk about gods and ghosts and the need to subjugate them or conquer them or exercise them or whatever. My feeling, however, though, when we talk about the preservation of Buddhism or the revival of Buddhism, it's the Buddhism, it's people who have to do the work of reviving it. It's not the gods and ghosts, etc., who do this. So even though these may be these ghosts and gods, etc., spirits may exist in people's minds. In terms of the actual work that we undertake, it needs to be at a practical level.
Simganani pena dal hatan de tatini mambo yori to sumar mepashi gozina tez kabo in sarisi mambo sin ina nga so leka legida zo de teni te tongu te lego dux tongzen tongu po ngoma nguyo kane satela teni
So gods and ghosts and spirits, these ideas are conceptions that exist in people's minds. To get rid of these conceptions is something that would be rather difficult. In fact, the important thing is that the work that we do, that our efforts take place in the concrete realm. So whether or not people believe in these things or they don't believe things, this is up to them. It's no great problem. The main thing is that in terms of where we place our efforts, it should be in concrete, tangible directions.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, and thank you to our translators.